The King of France, King Philip, found himself in debt to the powerful group of Knights Templar, and on Friday the 13th, October 1307, he sent mercenaries to hunt them down. But was this the end of the Knights Templar? After gaining immense wealth and knowledge in banking, could they be the ancestors of some of the wealthiest people in modern times? From their former headquarters in Jerusalem to the battles that brought their supposed demise. Here are fascinating facts about the Knights Templar.
Are you guys ready for another action-packed American Eye video? Let's get on to it.
Number 13. Who were they? The Knights Templar were formed in France and were a secretive society of elite knights and monks during the Crusades. They pledged to commit their lives to a secret code after invading the land of Israel. Their religious warriors formed in 1114 and were a fighting force to reckon with. The Knights possibly excavated underneath the Temple of Solomon and could have uncovered secret artifacts that they kept hidden. The Templars rose in wealth and power, controlling much land in the process. The Templars made it easier for pilgrims to travel from Western Europe by providing them protection and creating banks. Number 12. The Peak of Templars. During the peak of the Templars, their order was made up of around 20,000 men, many of which had different roles than you'd imagine. Not all of them would go fighting off in the Holy Land. Some worked to keep track of finances, while others were doctors or medics who helped keep everyone in good condition. The leader was, of course, the Grand Master, who had the final say on what the order did. They also had a deputy known as a seneschal who would provide the Grand Master support and even give his best advice on what to do next. The Templar marshals would also give updates on knights who went to battle. These people also had full control of gifts, horses, booty, armor, and weaponry. Number 11. Early banking connection. They pledged to commit their lives to a secret code after conquering the Holy Land of modern-day Israel. Although the Knights swore a life of modest living, their practices in banking certainly gained them an immense amount of wealth. They were the ones who created banks to protect pilgrims' assets as they would travel to the Holy Land. This meant that they could deposit their important items in Western Europe, but when they arrived in Jerusalem, the pilgrims would be reimbursed with gold or valuable items upon arrival. This minimized the risk of marauding Saracens taking all their belongings during a huge voyage. All this, of course, would cost a fee. The people of Europe loved them so much that large amounts of land and money were also donated. People who were also associated with the Templars would often leave them things in their will, which led to much money staying in the organization. Number 10. The Holy Land. The Knights Templar would have certainly been ready for the zombie apocalypse, and that's a fact. They were equipped with steel-plated armor, crossbows, swords, and were always wearing their white tunic, no matter what. The Knights Templar, though, wouldn't gain fame until the Holy Land was conquered. A French knight by the name of Jacques de Molay established a military order with his friends and relatives about 19 years after the capture of Jerusalem. They were originally known as the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, but later on they'd be changed to the Knight Templars. With their help of the ruler of Jerusalem, they would establish their headquarters at the Temple Mount, where the current Al-Aqsa Mosque is located. If they were able to hold on to the Holy Land, would the Pope have thought differently about his decision to get rid of the Templars? Number 9. The Fall of Acre. One of the biggest turning points for the group, and in Crusades in general, was the Fall of Acre in 1187. The Templars fought diligently to maintain control of Jerusalem, but they would eventually be forced to retreat to the northern city of Acre. Immediately, Saladin removed the crosses from Jerusalem, and the former Templar headquarters was transformed into a mosque. Acre was a heavily fortified city that would fall after a long and grueling siege was placed upon it. Tunnelers would dig underneath the walls and destroy the foundation. Saladin and his armies proved to be too much to handle, and he was set on getting Christians out of the Holy Land. The Templars, Hospitallers, and the Teutonic Knights would fight to regain the Holy Land, but would only keep it from 1229 to 1244. During the Battle of La Forbie, only 33 of 300 Knights Templar would survive. In modern times, the number 33 has much significance in Freemasonry, which suggests the origins of this important number. Number 8. The Holy Grail. Discovering the Holy Grail would be like the Holy Grail of all discoveries. This religious artifact was very important to the Templars. It's a pretty important artifact that is possibly the most sought-after treasure that no one has discovered yet. Some claim that the Blessed Cup has magical powers to whoever can find it, while others believe the Templars have it hidden away somewhere deep within their mysterious confines. The Templars get their name from the Temple of Solomon, where supposedly, according to the Templars, they actually found it during the Crusades. The quest for this item was mentioned by the Chrétien de Troyes during the work known as Perceval. Could this poet living in a region of France where many Templars are from know something about the real Holy Grail? Number 7. Only 10% were knights. As we mentioned before, only a small fraction of Knights Templar were actually knights. They really only had about 2,000 men who were ready to fight. One Knight Templar on the battlefield was worth his weight in gold and would be equipped with state-of-the-art armor and weaponry. The other 90% of the Knights Templar made sure that business was going well and worked as squires, blacksmiths, shipbuilders, trained horses, were archers, guarded sacred sites, and constructed castles. Together, they worked to form a functioning society that didn't solely require military force, but has certainly played a strong role. Number 6. Considered to be above the law. Even in modern times, it seems as though some people are just simply above the law and can't be persecuted no matter how heinous the crime. Before the apparent fall of the Knights Templar, the only person that was allowed to accuse the group of a crime was the Pope himself. The group received a formal endorsement by the Pope that allowed the group to have special rights, almost like ambassadors. This made them even exempt from paying taxes until eventually the Pope turned against them. Number 5. They owned Cyprus. If you live on the small Mediterranean island of Cyprus, you might be well aware that the Templars were once there. After the Templars lost the siege of Acre, they needed to move their operations somewhere close by, and this island made a perfect base. It was close to the Holy Land and somewhat isolated from the rest of the continent unless you had a boat. Their headquarters consisted of various fortifications in Nicosia, Limassol, and Gastria, and also somewhere known as Templos. In 1292, Pope Boniface VIII granted the Templars similar rights such as no taxes on this island. The Templars were also a part of a coup d'etat on the island, which would result in King Henry II to abdicate his throne. There was no evidence that the Knights Templar ever left the island until 1571 when the Ottomans took control. Number 4. Jacques de Molay. Jacques de Molay was the Grand Master of the Knights Templar during the time when King Philip IV accused him of heresy and the mass arrest took place. The Pope Clement V called for a trial where Molay confessed, probably forcingly, that a Templar initiation required people to defy Christ and spit on the cross. He then had to get all Templars he knew to confess as well. Eventually, the Pope sentenced 54 Templars to be burnt at the stake from the 10th to the 12th of May, 1310. They were burned right in front of the Notre Dame Cathedral on the Île aux Juifs, right next to the Île de la Cité. It's believed that Jacques de Molay put a curse on King Philip and his family while burning at the stake. Strangely enough, King Philip and the Pope Clement died within a year of the demise of Molay. Not only that, within 14 years, he would also lose 5 more family members, which brought an end to King Philip's dynasty. Could Notre Dame have also been a part of the curse? Number 3. Templars who escaped. As the Pope and the King of France put an immense amount of pressure on the Catholic countries to arrest the Templars, many had already vanished, and it seemed like it was too late. While there's some debate on exactly where they went afterwards, it would appear as though they set up their own country. The Templars would construct castles in Spain and aided in the Reconquista, making them welcomed by King Denis of Portugal. It was during this time a huge chunk of Spain was conquered and declared as Portugal. It would turn out that Denis was actually given an education by the Templars, who escaped, which certainly made him sympathetic to their cause. In order to avoid scrutiny from the Catholics in this area, they changed their names to the Order of Christ and seemingly lurked in the shadows pulling strings. Number 2. Beer discrimination. We know that when one particular group or even culture begins to gain too much wealth, they can often be a scapegoat. Lending money can also make it seem as though the lenders are part of the problem. The secrecy of their conduct also made many people wonder if they're really on their side or not. By the time people were on a witch hunt for the Templars, they began to realize that if you had a long bushy beard, there was a good chance that you might have been one of the Templars. This led many innocent people with beards being accused of the same crimes as the Templars. Many would shave their beards to try to remain incognito as best as possible. Number 1. Explorers of the New World. If we take a look at very notable Portuguese explorers, we'll also notice that many were a part of the Order of Christ, which we mentioned earlier. This includes many names such as Henry the Navigator, Vasco da Gama, Ferdinand Magellan, Bartholomew Diaz, and so on. Some even claim that Christopher Columbus was actually a spy from the Spanish and stole documents from the Templars, which revealed their idea to sail to America. Henry the Navigator, who was also the Grand Master of the group, explored the coast of Africa as well as India during his voyages, and Ferdinand Magellan would be the first explorer to circumnavigate the world. The Portuguese would set up colonies in Brazil and Africa and become an empire to reckon with.
So which one did you think was the most interesting? Let us know in the comments section, and we'll see you next time.